What's up, guys? I know it's been a long time, but now I'm uploading another video. I'll try and do it more consistently and upload more. So today I'll be showing you guys my updated Ojama deck profile for June 2012. This deck is pretty good. I've taken it to locals. It's topped first, second, and it fares well against Insectors, Dino Rabbits, and Chaos Dragons pretty well because they can make their wall of gachis and screw on with attack. And the build I'm running is pretty anti-meta. I've used Malefics before, so I kind of put that feeling into here. So I'll show you guys the main deck first. So to start, you use 3 Ojama Blue. Your Searcher works well with Pot of Duality. You go Pot of Duality, pick this guy up, shuffle your hand a bit, set him face down. I wonder what that can be, right? Then he searches for your red. Mainly with blue, you'd search your country first, and then whatever missing piece you'd need, like red or magic. Usually you'll have at least 1 or 2 pieces in your hand to work with. So yeah, then you'd work off from there. So the red, it's consistent at 1, because it's searchable by blue, and it's kind of dead at 2, because then you draw him before anybody else, and it just sucks from there. Then you run your consistent normal Ojama lineup. There's the 2 blacks, 2 yellows, and 2 greens. So using this lineup is pretty well. I run a Future Fusion so I could mill out some normal monsters by revealing Ojama King right there. And it makes the deck pretty consistent when you'll only have like 3 of each color in your deck. And when you use magic, it'll thin out your deck from 3 of these again. So these guys get out of the deck pretty quick. It doesn't really work well when you draw into them because then it takes away a target for magic and Future Fusion, which is why you run the Ojama Knight if needed. So that's your Ojama engine. Then to support them you run 3 Junk Synchrons. It's an amazing card in this deck, especially if you're playing a pretty slow game. You set any Ojama, dies, normal summon Junk Synchron, sync for Catastor, could even sync for Frozen Fitzgerald, which is a pretty nice card. And it even works with the country because it's 25-25. So there's the 3 Junk Synchrons. 2 Effect Veilers. 2 Effect Veilers are pretty consistent. Stop your opponent, and if you need to, you can sync with it, which is always pretty nice. And it's a light. Alright, and here's where my deck gets pretty unique. You use 2 Malefic Stardust Dragons. He keeps Ojama Country alive, and he's also a dark, so that works well. Then you use 1 BLS, because you have the Ojamas and Effect Veiler, and Malefic Stardust and Junk Synchron. That's your 19 monster card line. For spells, you run 2 Pot of Duality, 3 is 2 Cloggy, and 2 is just right because you could go first turn Ojama Blue faster. Then for your dead Ojamas, you use double creature swap. Swap out your Ojama whatever for some beater of your opponent's. Then for your Ojama spell card lineup, you use 1 Hurricane, 1 Magic, triple Country. These are the cards that you need to OTK. The Magic and the Hurricane mainly, and at least 1 of these. If you don't know the OTK, you pretty much summon a bunch of Ojama. You summon red to summon green, yellow, black, go Delta Hurricane, and then after that you Xyz into 2 gachis, and you'll probably have an Ojama Blue in there, so you'll deal enough damage to leave your opponent at 100. Which kind of sucks, so you'd have to work around doing that type of OTK and actually OTK them. So there's that. Next you run 1 Terraforming to complement the field spell for Malefic Stardust. I tuck in 1 Tri-White because if you're against the wall and it's pretty late game, you have at least 3 normals, you could go this and then Xyz for Dark Mist. Number 96 Dark Mist was it, which is pretty good, to be honest. Then I also use Future Fusion to mill out the deck. 1 Reborn, one MST. MST you only need at 1 because once you get the Ojama Delta Hurricane off, you pretty much Heavy Storm Dark Hole them. Then you actually use the Heavy Storm Dark Hole. So there's the staples. Okay, on the traps you use double torrential. When you have a Gachi, you don't really mind torrentialing because your opponent gets minused and you keep a Gachi, which is pretty good. Then you use the Solemn Brigade, stops Future Fusion, stops Reborn, stops effect monsters that summon. I like it better than Bottomless because Bottomless doesn't stop Future Fusion, which you see a lot of play nowadays. Solemn Judgment, staple, why not? Then you use 1 Skill Drain. You use the Skill Drain because of Malefic Stardust. So if you could get Malefic Stardust on the field, you Skill Drain him. Then you have a 2000 beater, because you'll probably have country on the field. Or a 25 beater if you don't. Then after that, you can summon BLS, which turns into a 3000 beater. And in your extra deck you have the King and the Knight, who become 2500 and 3000 beaters. And these guys who become beaters as well. And this could really, like, hurt your opponent, depending on what they use. Like, heroes, they won't get hurt. Insectors, Dino Rabbit, and Chaos Dragons will get pretty hurt, not gonna lie. Alright, I'll move on to my extra deck really quick. Use the 1 Knight, 1 King, Future Fusion targets. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't really matter whether you get him out or not. It really helps if you could get them out, but you usually use Future Fusion to mill your deck out and complement Tri-White. Then you use 1 Gachi, 2 Gachi, and 3 Gachi. You have Hulk, Red Hulk, and Compound Hulk. So triple Gachi is a staple in an Ojama deck because UXC is pretty crazy, and these guys are a perfect wall, especially when they can turn into 2200 walls, or 2600 walls, or even 3000 walls. Wait a minute, 3000? Nah, maybe. Depends. Then you run double Dark Mist. You can use the, what's it called? You can use 1, and then, but I use 2, because sometimes I like to side in another Tri-White, depending on the matchup. Because Dark Mist can become pretty crucial, depending on who you're playing. He is sick, like no one expects him. Because he's just like a forgotten card. Okay, well, I don't know why, but there's a roach in here. This should be Wind Up Zen mains, or Hydric Sun Dragon of Heliopolis, but whatever. There's a roach in here. You could side deck level 4s, whatever. Because Sun Dragon of Heliopolis works with BLS and Stardust. If it's really necessary, I wouldn't do it, but... And then there is Zen mains, which works with Reborn and Junk Synchron. Then we have Kitaster, staple. Junk Gardener, defense beater with country. Bryonax, staple. Black Rose, staple. Stardust, just in case you need to do it. Then Frozen Fitzgerald, works well with Junk Synchron. And an Ojama, Beast, right? You attack, can't do anything about it. It's a 2500 beater. And if he's alone, you can bring him back whenever you want. Then we have Ally of Justice Field Marshal. He is pretty much a beater, if you need him. You could switch this out for Mistworm, but I prefer him over Mistworm right now because heroes are pretty big, and they can't super poly this. This deck like dies to super poly with all these lights. But then again, you have Earths too, which also get their ass kicked by super poly and heroes. So you're gonna want to use him instead, because you also use that skill drain, and he is a 2900 beater under skill drain, so he's not that bad. Going into him is not that hard because you go Tri-White into Junk Synchron, and then what now? So thanks for watching. That is my Ojama deck profile for June 2012, and I'll see you guys next time.